plateia da luz, sim!
Do you ever come to a point where you question your whole existence? A point you feel so hopeless you start to believe yourself incapable of achieving anything? Well, don't worry, for the solution lies in space, as the farther away we are from Earth, the lack of gravity tends to, make us levitate to heights unimaginable. It is in the weightlessness of space that our burdens seem to dissipate, replaced by a sense of liberation and limitless desires to uncover and explore. The vastness of the cosmos stretches infinitely before us, in an endless canvas upon which we can paint our dreams and aspirations. The very stars becoming guiding lights, illuminating the path towards self-discovery and personal fulfillment. As we gaze upon the celestial wonders, we realize that the universe in all its grandeur holds the key to unlocking our true potential. Okay, let's skip the philosophical bullcrap, alright? Forget playing cards, implants, overtaking of AI, VTubers, or basically anything else your childish mind thought the infinity of space could hold in exuberance for humans to enjoy, as the intergalactic regions are instead dominated by aliens who see our species as nothing more than a product to be consumed. That's right, and not even consumed in a good way, but more like something to be used and then disposed of. Like an addicting hallucinogen distributed by drug overlords following an invasion of Earth on your average Saturday morning, where we could only survive by the miracle of teleportation and the help of a talkative pistol. Anyways, if killing the bad is aided by sentient guns while earning some respectable side income sounds like something that could be of interest to you, then look no further, for you won't find a better game to live this reality other than High on Life, an unusual comedy-esque first-person shooter that is heavily inspired both visually and thematically by the long-running animation series Rick and Morty. Although it is the only game that will ever insuit you more times than a single line of dialogue than you really deserve for the lack of a social aspect in your life, the game remains, without a doubt, a masterclass on how to execute onto an idea, simply by not holding back on the multiple ways they can use anything that has a mouth to throw insults at us. It is a game made to be enjoyed by those beyond the point of salvation, those who can laugh at bad jokes and take no offense to being called names left and right.
Alright, dipshit, let's go.
If degeneracy with a teaspoon of awful humor is your cup of tea, then rejoice, for you won't be able to find a game that sells the pitch of being so idiotic it can be appreciated, as well as High on Life does it.
My name's Stan, and I sell vials of alien cum. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear when you walked over here. You wanted cum or what?
You sell alien cum? Why the fuck do you do that, man?
So with that said, my apologies in advance if you're one of the few sane people left on our beautiful planet, because unfortunately this review won't be for you. Contrary to my previous statement, being far away from home doesn't solve every problem. Very much the opposite, it creates big problems instead. For example, while the atmosphere somehow being breathable is aside for immediate relief, being able to just stand around breathing won't get us anywhere in terms of saving Earth, which kind of sucks because it will be awesome being able to save everybody without having to lift a finger. The sobering reality is that, unfortunately for us, true heroism requires bravery as well as our active participation in order for a better future to be unlocked, and rescuing humans from the grasp of such monumental foes won't be so simple as standing idly from the safety of our home, meaning that we will have to step outside. In the universe of High on Life, you'll be quick to notice that, while a fantastic start, a mere change of environment is barely enough to achieve the grandeur of becoming an intergalactic superhero. And as you may expect, going from obscurity to the status of legend should take slightly more than a little bit of effort and a few well-aimed shots. For this reason, our first objective in the game would be to, well, arm ourselves with more than confidence in our ability to clutch every encounter. To that end, we made Gene, an ex-professional bounty hunter who's retired and living in the streets due to an injury to his legs that crippled him, causing him to become incapacitated and unable to work again.
The famous bounty hunter Gene Zaruthian, are you?
Who's asking?
You're really Gene.
Yeah, I'm really Gene. That's me, like on the ads. Disappointed?
Being such an inspiration and a kind soul, we take his old bounty hunt suit in exchange for a temporary place to live, and from there onward, it's all a question of make those behind the vile actions against our kind regret the day they left their mother's womb. Now that the preparatory phase of equipping ourselves is complete, it's nearly time we get down to business. Yet, before plunging headfirst into the fray, there remain some pivotal matters that demand our attention. Since we're still a beginner at this whole bounty hunting thing, It's important we prove that we're capable of carrying ourselves in a fight, and that we are serious about battling until death for what's essentially a lost cause. Fueled by a rush of adrenaline, we set forth on a relentless pursuit of the most notorious thugs scattered across the entirety of the cosmos, acutely aware of the possibility that our first assignment could very well turn out to be our last. After surprising our mentor by returning to our lair in one piece, we proceed to claim our very first reward and set out to spend our hard-earned pesos on some things to help ensure we'll be as durable as we need to teach those who oppose us a lesson. As is to be expected, we begin the process of dismantling their operations by taking down their lowest ranking officers, going up the ladder of bastardity until we finally reach the mastermind behind everything, which, being the inevitable force of nature that we know we are, shouldn't take much too long. And now that we've done enough for contextualization, I think it's only fair we go ahead and talk about the part we've all been waiting for, which will be the combat. When it comes to combat, get ready for an immersive experience that's both exhilarating and delightfully offbeat, not to mention wacky at times. In short, you can expect encounters that will keep you on your toes and inject a healthy dose of fun and excitement into your gameplay. When it comes to gameplay, two things are made very clear about the game. The first is that, despite its silly approach to ranged combat, high on life shouldn't be underestimated when it comes to spraying walls with the blood of our enemies. And second, it is a game that, in my humble opinion, strikes a perfect balance between fast-paced action and strategic depth. It honestly flows really nicely, with difficulty not being too over the top either, meaning that even your dad could pick up the game and enjoy blasting through zones almost effortlessly. Think of it more as a beginner-friendly action game with a lower skill floor and a slightly higher ceiling due to the amount of maneuverability it gives us with our futuristic suit and our gunstreak abilities, both contributing to an umbrella of possibilities for how we can approach encounters. To expand upon those abilities, in sum, they are basically talents that are exclusive to each of the 5 guns we can find across the game, being designed with the intent of fulfilling a utility niche meant to work in addition to the destructive powers of the guns. A fun fact is that some of the guns are even proud of their skills, even go so far as to admit that due to the variety of their abilities, they can call themselves superior to the other guns despite the gap not being so absolutely huge. And although, yes, having those funky aliens talk your ears off about how amazing they are mid-combat can be a bit distracting, do remember that they are nothing that your ears gonna quickly learn to treat as ambient noise, muffling the sound of background conversations from those talkative characters down to a point you can barely notice it happen as they emote through enemies. There is even an option to turn down the amount of dialogue you get via the in-game settings, which I would recommend you change immediately unless you seriously enjoy the interaction so much you just cannot help but want to hear more of them. Needless to say, experienced players can expect to have an ultra easy time playing through the game even on the highest difficulty settings, being able to breeze through areas without breaking a single sweat. That is due to the fact that encounters are fairly basic, consisting mostly of low-level guns to act as fodder with a few elite-type enemies sprinkled in, that forced us to take a slightly more cautious approach, being clearly put in the game with the sole intention of ensuring that we cannot autopilot our way through everything. To be completely fair, its easygoing approach becomes understandable once we take its arcadey elements into consideration. Drawing inspiration from titles like those of the Doom franchise, the game can be kind of comparable to a hack-and-slash experience where, rather than focusing solely on surviving, the objective is mainly to dispatch enemies swiftly by utilizing strategic positioning and outpacing their advances. Moreover, because it prioritizes fun over anything else, the game manages to entertain us in the most unusual of moments. For example, you can sometimes see enemies perform actions improper for the battlefield, such as twerking as they're about to get hit or running away blasting at their own allies after getting shot at, seemingly unaware of their surroundings. If these don't serve to convince you of the game's carefreeness, do know that there are plenty of other instances where the game goes all out with its quirky elements, adding a bunch to the frivolous feeling I've just finished talking about. From unexpected dialogue exchanges to comical characters everywhere, the game constantly surprises and delights players with its lighthearted and whimsical nature. Because everything is meant to be viewed as a joke, it is impossible to take the game seriously, however hard it can be to swallow the pill of it being in the same genres as games such as Battlefield and Call of Duty. So while I didn't think the game was as mechanically advanced as I would like, it still didn't do as bad for a game that's essentially a walking joke. On a similar note, as much as I would love to have some slightly more advanced AI for enemies and extra bullet hell sequences beyond those that we did get, I can once again appreciate the effort that went into creating an experience that manages to be pleasurable, regardless of it being challenging or not. While it may not cater to hardcore gamers seeking slightly more intense challenges, the game successfully achieves its goal of providing entertainment and a welcome reprieve from the seriousness of other more explosive titles, and for this reason, it deserves to have a pass for me. If you're a fan of anime, you're probably already used to the whole get transported to another world and start again from scratch thing, where, as implied by the short description, it's basically a subgenre of animation that allows characters to start again from zero in a far, far away land, possibly even in a different dimension. Although a bit saturated by now due to the popularity of the genre, one thing has remained unchanged throughout the ages. The quick and to-the-point introduction to this world with different and yet recognizable laws of nature, without wasting much of our time explaining and introducing us to things we are likely to already have a reasonable understanding of. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that High on Life is, more or less, a game that flows similarly to those kinds of animes, combining adored elements of sci-fi with the layers of bizarreness and exoticity that only a high fantasy world could provide. A truly fascinating aspect of this game to me is that, because it didn't have to adhere to conventional logic, developers were pretty much allowed to explore imaginative realms and concepts with complete disregard for rules, basically receiving a pass with administrative rights for whatever ideas came to their mind, and boy oh boy, they didn't hold back. Now, in relation to the game itself, High on Life was somehow far weirder than anything I could have expected. One notable example of its next level weirdness is that, unlike your typical fantasy setting, the game likes to emphasize early on that you are the only unusual, foreign, misplaced, or odd object in the environment, while everything else around you is considered normal within that world. In other words, it basically doesn't even attempt to introduce us to anything or make us feel included in the place we just happen to pop up, which, to be frank, was quite great for once, you know. Not being greeted as the savior of the prophecy and instead being called the weird hairy alien that came out of nowhere. And to be clear, that's something I really liked about the game. Its boldness in calling it quits as soon as we arrive and not treating us like anything special is what made me assume that we have to work really hard to earn a drop of recognition around the block. The simple fact that there was barely any negative reception to our arrival, that, right there, spelled this was no ordinary isekai game. And while I can agree that this information might be completely irrelevant to our enjoyment of the game, I still wanted to make sure to emphasize the uniqueness of this aspect, which completely caught me off guard. Also, way up there in terms of dubious relevancy, High on Life is quite supreme when it comes to edging us before it irons out, giving us enough upgrades to be able to reach the rewards that are feasible but unreachable until much later into the game. It's both frustrating and amusing how we can spend hours parkouring to get tantalizingly close to the coveted prizes, only to realize we lack the required tools or upgrades to access the contents within the enigmatic chest-like objects known as luglocks. However, if you're dedicated enough, there are moments when you can even make the impossible work out in your favor, turning the tables and obtaining those elusive rewards through sheer determination alone.
What kind of hellspawn are you? You sick fucking fuck! You just killed the love of my life!
Oh, you've just got such great loot.
Another thing is that getting around thankfully isn't as much of a problem in space as it is here on Earth thanks to the advancement of warping technology, which allows us to travel to faraway places almost instantaneously. This greatly facilitates our job of infiltrating enemy lines without raising any alarms, and rescuing our fellow humans, as now we can just teleport basically anywhere whenever we want, so long as we have the exact coordinates to instruct our warp device where we want to land. So to conclude, I would give the game a solid 8 out of 10 for exploration just because of the stupid sprint toggle, which ruined my immersion whenever it happened by the shift key. In the vast landscape of first-person shooters, High on Life comes across as a truly unique and captivating experience that is worth checking out, whether you're an FPS fanatic or have never come in contact with a shooting game in your life. On top of its stellar gameplay, the post-spawn combat, in addition to some ankle-breaking moves and a set of out-of-this-world weaponry, comes together to create an experience that transcends the boundaries of games as a whole, making for a delightful adventure that can be enjoyed by everyone regardless of skill level. Just a quick heads up, do be aware that there's a great chance the game won't be for you. As a matter of fact, even I myself questioned many times if I should continue playing the game, only to keep being surprised until the moment I caught myself quite literally exploding a level 100 Mafia boss's poopy hole.
Shit is done. Comanche is dead. He's fucking dead.
With that being said, if the content presented in this review thus far has not sparked any sense of concern or hesitation within you, then it may be worthwhile to explore the game further. Keeping this perspective in mind, there are two defining sentences that can be applicable in High on Life's case. One being that it is quite obviously an absolute menace to society, and two, the words might potentially hurt every once in a while even if you're sturdily built as someone that wasn't raised in the golden era of social media. Out of those two, only the latter we can do something about, and that is to remember that words can only do as much damage as we allow them to. And while I must confess I cannot claim to be a fan of Rick and Morty myself at the time of writing this review, based on the clips I've seen, the humor in High on Life not only closely matches its style, but it is also a direct one-to-one carbon copy of it. Therefore, if you happen to be an avid enthusiast of this show or resonate with that particular brand of humor, you needn't hold your breath in anticipation of the game's capacity to deliver a copious amount of precisely what you know and cherish any longer.
We should maybe deal with it. Thank you so much for saving me. Oh my god, thank you. But you know what? I'm kinda thinking I would have fucked him. So now I don't know. I'm gonna go think about that. See you later.
So, to conclude, by all accounts I must play, High on Life is a meticulously crafted first-person shooter that not only dares to be different but also showcases remarkable creativity. It skillfully combines the best elements of the genre with a generous pinch of refined silliness, resulting in an experience that is truly captivating. With its innovative mechanics, unforgettable moments, and a healthy dose of delightful absurdity, High on Life deserves to be celebrated as a remarkable achievement in the FPS domain it chose to nest. For more reviews like this one, please do consider checking out my other videos here on YouTube, or if you prefer, you can read them online by accessing the link in the description down below. And with that, I'll hopefully be catching you guys next time as well. See y'all!